Welcome to this quick Wednesday Wisdom episode. It's dedicated to love and it's filled with Rumi's love wisdom and some apologies from me. But before I share inspirations and pour my heart out, a reminder of my motto for me and for you, to be able to live in harmony with the infinite wisdom that dreamed all of us into being. And that means that we're able to look at the world from that point of view. We're able to be in a new, larger, vast reality. And this week, when we look at love, we're going to be looking at the enigma, the mystery, the puzzle, the noun and the verb, its simplicity and its complexities. So as for me, I'm Carrie Fox, and I help wounded women get their mojo back, which means that whether they have fallen down the rabbit hole or they've had some heartbreak that was devastating or things just have piled up one on top of the other and gotten heavier and heavier, and you start sliding down that slippery slope and feeling broken or wounded. And since this is Valentine's week, this episode is going to include not only looking at Rumi's quotes about love, but about what I've learned about love as being a healing wounded woman. And that blatant falsehood or that blatant lie that keeps perpetuating, which I'll bring up a little bit later. And these are all such a huge part of getting your mojo back. So now that I've introduced myself, allow me to introduce Rumi. Now, Rumi was a 13th century Persian poet, scholar, and Sufi mystic. He has a huge following all around the world, and he's actually one of the best-selling poets in America. Brad Gooch, who wrote a biography of Rumi, described him as a poet of joy and love. So it's time. I'm going to show you not only my favorite quote, but probably his most popular. And that is, your task is not to seek for love, but to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Now, this quote is so filled with innuendo that we're going to revisit it again in a few minutes. But for right now, let's just look at more of the love quotes that I picked out for you today for this Valentine's focused week. You have within you more love than you could ever understand. And love is the bridge between you and everything. And let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love, and it will not lead you astray. And obviously, one of my favorites again, let the beauty of what you love be what you do. Through love, bitter things become sweet. And I was dead, then alive, weeping, then laughing. The power of love came into me, and I became fierce like a lion, and then tender like the evening star. And another one of my favorites, love, the supreme musician, is always playing in our souls. Now, as you can see, many of the memes I'm using today are either from my Facebook page, Harmony Enterprises with Carrie Fox, or our new Facebook group. That's Living in Harmony. And I'd love to have you guys join us there at the page or the group to share your thoughts and reflections on the subjects of either living in harmony or getting your mojo back. Anytime. Just go in there, like us, follow us, and join us. So I said we were going to go back to that first slide that I showed you, which is your task is not to seek for love, but to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Now, I, like so many of you, have experienced, or more truthfully, have developed that barrier thing. It often develops as the result of love gone wrong. Like the first time your heart is broken. There's a blasting apart of that myth about being about that myth of living happily ever after. It happens to most of us. And what I eventually discovered was, that my problem with love was a result of my growing up in the 50s and 60s. Now, it was a time when the world was healing from war, from terror and cruelty, from suffering and struggle, from food shortages, fear. And once that war was over, once good triumphed over evil, a hopefulness and an optimism were born again, especially in the United States and the countries involved in the war. People were ready to leave fear behind them and to establish love as the primary force of nature. And it was also the time of the explosion of what I call the Disney influence. The fairy tales teaching us that someday my prince will come. And of course, there was the arrival of the hero coming to rescue the damsel in distress. And they lived happily ever after. And movie after movie subconsciously filled our little girl heads with the fantasy. The problem was, and to a point still is, the absence of what happens after the end of the movie, and the discovery that their relationship and their marriage expectations were completely unrealistic. And what happened is there became an epidemic of divorces as the children of the 50s and 60s grew up and started marrying, and all of a sudden we have divorce, divorce, divorce. And the culprit of that was basically unrealistic expectations. And then one day, a few decades ago, I came to this realization. What kind of person puts these ideas into little girls' minds? Stupid, sexy, cartoon men. I've kissed so many frogs. Damn you, Walt Disney. And I remember the day that concept came into my head. I found this meme yesterday and it fitted perfectly. But I remember the day that I recognized that, and I actually said that out loud. Damn you, Walt Disney. It's perpetuating a falsehood and a lie. And now, of course, our problem as both people, adults of the world, and adults who create media, is how to figure out how to teach the art of friendship and dating instead of the meet and fall in love concept. So, to all the men that I've thought that I loved before, my apologies. But first, you're welcome for all the fun and the laughter and the sex we had at the beginning of our relationship. And then, I'm sorry for all the quick exits and the tears and the disappointment for being in a relationship I shouldn't have been in the first place. I apologize for the ending of the relationships because I didn't know what to do with after the end of the movie. And of course, there also came the not happily ever afters. So I ran away from relationships that might have worked out with some knowledge of how to be in a relationship. Because relationships, just like life, have ups and downs. I got into relationships of physical and emotional abuse, all because I thought love was being in love and that it happened easily. You met a man, there was an attraction, he was the man, and you get married or become a couple. And dang you, Walt Disney. Over time, I discovered that there's a difference between the noun and the verb of love. From being in love, the noun, expanding to the universal love of loving, which is a verb. I love. Now, Rumi said, the moment you accept what troubles you've been given, the door will open, which I learned after a few failed relationships. When a relationship turns bad, where there's more pain than there is happiness, that's a signal that something's very wrong. And once you see that, and you recognize that this might not actually be a loving relationship, the door will open. And if you keep knocking, the joy inside will eventually open a window and look out to see who's there. And your natural state of love and joy will help you break down the barrier or barriers that your heartaches have built up. So Rumi also said, only from the heart can you touch the sky. When we have our heart as our main operating system, instead of our mind thinking that we should be in love, well, if we let it, then we can touch the sky. It is the only lasting beauty, and we can learn to stop seeking outside ourselves, finding someone else to be in a love relationship with, instead of loving ourselves on the inside, because love and joy is what we carry inside of us. We cannot get it from outside. The truth is, your heart knows the way. So run in that direction. And that does not only mean about romantic love, but also for the love we've felt for our parents and anyone else that we have loved in our life. Rumi also said, "Goodbyes are only for those who love with their eyes, because those who love with their hearts and their soul, there is no such thing as separation." Now, I really get that, and I understand that love is a verb. It's loving. Even though my parents' bodies are no longer walking this earth, I still talk to them regularly. I still talk to my exes, no matter if they are here or gone. When I can be loving, when I remember loving them, that kind of love has no separation. The kind of love and that kind of love is within you. And the heart has a language, and it knows 100,000 ways to speak. Ways that you can allow yourself to live in harmony with the infinite wisdom that dreamed you into being. So right now what I'd like you to do is just kind of sit back, relax, take a nice deep breath, and close your eyes. And allow yourself to fall in love. And allow yourself to stay there. That is your challenge for this Valentine's week. Focus on love, on loving, the verb, and beyond. And you know what? If you find that difficult, and I know some people do, I invite you to ask for a copy of my free ebook. It's called Feel Loved, Nurtured, and Supported. It has some lovely inspirations and ways to be the verb loving. Just send me an email at feellovedbook@harmonyenterprises.net and we'll get it right off to you. And remember, love is the whole thing. Love is all there is. Love is the universe. Love is God. We are only the pieces. So thank you for joining me today on this 59th episode of our Weekly Wisdoms. And I love the little pulsing heart there. Please visit and like our Facebook page, Harmony Enterprise with Carrie Fox. Until next time, I am Carrie Fox, and I'm reminding you to live in harmony with the infinite wisdom that dreamed you into being. And remember, when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, it's time to get your mojo back. Bye for now.